Okay, looks like it's going. If you have your phone out and if you had selected follow, hopefully it will show up that I went live. Let's see. Has anyone? Oh yeah, and then mute it too, because everyone's will be going at the same time. Okay. If it's not working out for you, and you know, feel free to ask a neighbor to look at their phone. If not, I'll be walking around after I get us started and kind of give you guys up close help if you want. Okay. So let's go ahead and turn to the first page after that intro. These are just your drills. Every time that I start to letter after a while, if I haven't been doing it every day, my hands are a little bit shaky sometimes, or I'm just not used to it. It doesn't look very fluid. So I always recommend just warming up before you start something. My hands are probably going to be a little bit shaky because I had too much caffeine today, and I feel a little bit on the spot. So hopefully I'll warm up after doing this a little bit, and my muscles will relax. So your very first drill that we're going to do is the downstroke. So if you are going to use your brush pen, you definitely want to hold your pen more of an angle, like not straight up and down. Think of like 45-degree angle. And you can go right over that black line first just to experiment. And then go over that gray one, and then branch out and see how your own lines look. You want to attempt to keep a similar angle, but I don't do that all the time. This is just practice, so don't put so much pressure on yourself. But you can see, depending on how hard you press down, your line will become more or less thick. So you can fill the whole thing, or you can just save some if you want to try. And like I said, you take this book home, so you can kind of save a little bit and work on it some more later. Your upstroke, we can scoot down to the next one. Upstroke this one is tricky because you have to kind of hold your brush lightly on top of the page, and you're just barely like kissing the paper with the brush, the tip of the brush. Once you get comfortable with it, the upstroke, if you go somewhat quickly, then maybe you have a better chance of having a less shaky line. At least that's what works for me. But just give that a try to just get comfortable with that. But really, these next few drills and the combinations are really more realistic of what you would be lettering on a regular basis. So the underturn, we're going to start with a thick line, like with some more pressure, and then lighten up as we go upwards. I didn't mention it. I'm going to move that. Sorry, Michelle. I didn't mention it, but if you've noticed there's a little gray dot, that shows you where to start. So you're going to start here, swoop down. Feel free to pause to kind of tell yourself, I'm going to change my pressure, and I'm going to lighten up as I go upwards. So try that one a few times, and then we'll go and do the overturn, which is the opposite of what we just did. We're gonna just kind of experiment with the brush pen for a little bit, and then the second half of the class we'll be diving into the watercolors. But I wanted to let you guys try out more than one brush lettering material. Some people are like team brush pen, some people are team watercolor. I prefer the watercolor brush, but everyone's different. Your overturn. The label is at the top of the line. I get thrown off sometimes. So your overturn, you're going to be starting with a very light upstroke, and then when you get to the top of the hill, you're going to put some pressure and go down. Okay, let's try the compound curve. That is basically a combination of those last two. We're going to go up the hill with a light upstroke, down the hill with a heavier touch, and then back up. And you don't have to do that all in one fell swoop. You can pause if you want to.
I hope practice improves this.
It does, it does. And the drills are not that exciting. I hate to like start you guys off with this, but it's a nice way to just warm up, you know, and not like waste fancy paper, but just take a little scrap paper sometimes and you can just, you know, get used to a new tool and do some upstrokes, some overturns, underturns. It's just, you don't have to memorize them, but just knowing like, oh, let me just play around with this really quick. Or just always writing your name is that's a more fun way to practice in my opinion. But the oval is the trickiest one for most people, for me too. If you notice that little gray dot starts not at the top, like if this were a clock, it would be more like at 1 or 2 o'clock. So start with a little upstroke over at like 1 or 2 o'clock, and then when you get to the top, kind of stop, put your pressure down, and come back up. The oval shape, you'll be doing that on your lowercase a's, your b's, d's. It pops up a lot in the alphabet, so it's tricky to master, but it is important. And mine are not great, so if you're watching the live video, you'll see that mine are certainly not perfect. These are my first ovals I've lettered all day, so I need to warm up too. So I'm only doing a few because I don't want to spend the whole class just warming up. So that's why if I keep moving you too fast, it's okay. You get to take all this stuff home and work on it more on your own time. The ascending stem loop, this would be, depending on how fancy you get, like your H's, your lowercase h's, I start my letter P, lowercase p's like this, and my B's. So just try a few of those, and then our descending stem loop, you are starting, it just kind of looks like a J, lowercase j. You're going to start with the downstroke, kind of pause when you get to the bottom, and loop back up. That one is always kind of hard for me to keep smooth, but that's why we practice. And it's not illegal to go back and touch up if you need to. All right. Just gonna raise this up a little bit. When you feel like you've warmed up adequately, you can go ahead and flip to your first page of the alphabet.
You do or you don't.
I do.
Sometimes if it's too much, it starts to taste.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to need a lot of practice.
I was thinking I'm already using all my.
Of course, maybe it's the tool. I'm sure it's the tool. I'm thinking that you're right. Yeah, this is not forgiving. This black, you know, it's.
Yeah. You'll build some muscle more you practice. Are we okay over here? Ready to move on to this alphabet? Okay. All right, so in the interest of time for this class, we're only going to practice together. I'm only going to demo the lowercase letters, and then that is going to save you some more stuff that you can work on your own, because we have this whole alphabet to go through with our brush pen, and then the second half we have all these sheets again that we're going to try with the watercolor brush. So it would take us forever to do uppercase too. So I'm going to skip over it. If you get to your own initial and you really want to try it, that's fine. But I'm just going to do these because for the most part, the majority of the time, you are lettering using lowercase letters. So your A, this is an open A. the style of lettering, this is my style that I kind of developed over the last few years. If you don't like the extra loops, if you want to simplify it, if you want all of your letters to be closed, your loops to be closed, then do what you want. But this is just based on my style here. So your A, this is that start of that oval. You're going to start going upwards, put some more pressure as you go down, swoop back up, and then more pressure as you go down. This is pretty basic. I don't feel like this is too fancy, this lowercase a, but give it a shot. If you want to fill the whole line, you can, or you can save some for later. If you're having trouble transitioning to the thick to thin at the top of the curve, try angling your brush pen so it is like not straight up and down, but more of a 45-degree angle. Even if that's not the natural way you write, just see what that does when you give that a try. You're almost like pushing the pen away from you, pushing the brush away from you when you go up, or when you go down. Okay, B, lowercase b. Once again, I have these fancy loops that I like to add in my letters. If that's too much for you, you can modify it and you can do something just like straight down and then go around. Okay. The C is basically that half of that oval. So you're going to start at about 2 o'clock, go up, stop at the top of the hill, transition to that thicker downstroke, and finish it up. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was like, I saw you thank you, and then it takes a second.
Yeah, please. No, it's good from here.
For no reason.
Yeah, but it's not something that we do very often, or at all.
So is this calligraphy?
Yeah, I would call it calligraphy.
It responds a lot more naturally to the pressure. All right, let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to try and just move quickly so that we don't spend the whole class just using the pen. This is just a little intro, so you're not going to necessarily come away from the class being an expert, but you'll know how to continue your journey. So I always feel bad when people are like, oh, I'm not getting it, but this is just kind of the start, kind of getting your feet wet, just experiencing the different tools and materials, and then keep going on your own. So the lowercase d, got that tricky oval. We were just talking about how that's hard to transition and make it smooth. Feel free to pause when you need to transition to an upstroke or downstroke. All right. The lowercase e, similar to that C, but you're starting lower with your upstroke and coming around to a downstroke. All right, and then my lowercase f is a little funky. This is the way I do mine. Once again, you can, whatever way you would write your cursive F, you can write it. If you don't like the way I do mine, just remember when you're going downwards, you want a thicker, more pressure to create a thicker stroke. So yeah, so this is kind of like your descending loop here, and then going up, and then I kind of added an extra little loop going back. Feel free to simplify. What's a regular F look like? Kind of just kind of coming up and then leaving that extra loop out. Okay. All right, let's go on to the G's, lowercase g on the next page. Okay. So your lowercase g is that oval again, transitioning into a downstroke, coming back up, and then that descending stem, that was that drill we did on the first page. I've always had trouble coming back up like this and keeping it steady. So something I learned, this is something that works for me, is I just cheat and I go backwards, but I just do a lighter touch, pretending like I'm doing an upstroke. That works for me. It could just be that I just kept practicing that way. If you practice the right way, you might end up doing it the right way. But that's something I share because that always was tricky for me, to just keep a steady hand when you're doing a long upstroke like that. So the proper way is to kind of come around and go up. And that was fine, but you can also, I always am going back and evening things out. Like I said, that's okay. All right, your lowercase h. There's an extra loop on here. You can modify this and just go straight down. So you do your ascending stem loop here, and then you're doing upstroke, transition to a downstroke. I'll demo this I really quick and then I'll walk around and see how everyone's doing. The I is easy. We're just doing a little downstroke with an upstroke at the end. And of course, when you are, if you're writing in script with cursive, you would connect that just by, you know, leading an upstroke up to it. And we'll talk about that more later. Right. If you're ready, we'll go to the next page. Do J, K, and L. Adjust this here. All right. J, we're starting with that down stroke. If you want to do that little cheat where you kind of connect it from the top, you can, or do it the right way, learn the right way. I'll demonstrate it the right way. Feel free to stop when you get like to the bottom of the J when you're ready to turn into an upstroke. You can pause. Okay. K, this one has an extra little loop at the top. Feel free to modify it if you don't like the extra loops. So my K has a loop starting with an upstroke. At the top I pause, go down. Your upstroke, pause at the top, downstroke, downstroke. And then your L is pretty simple. Just as you're going up, you're using a light touch at the top of the hill. You can pause and remind yourself to put more pressure as you go down. Okay. Remember, if you find yourself getting frustrated, just play around with that angle that you're holding your pen with, because that can change it a lot. Okay, lowercase m has a lot of loops and humps. So we're starting lowercase m, we're starting with an upstroke. Mine has a loop. If you don't want to do the loop, you can just start with a downstroke at the top of the M. Looping around, downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, downstroke. If you do find that you like using these pens, once you get used to them, they do sell them in a ton of colors. The N is just basically half of your M. One less hump to get over. And then the O, you can simply do your O like that oval drill we did at the beginning, or you can do this extra loop at the top. This is the way that I do mine. So you can attempt it, and if you don't like it, hi Jessie, you can try it without. So with this O, we just start with the downstroke, go upwards, and then there's a second downstroke as you loop out. I don't know if it's comforting to you guys to hear this, but the first time I used this pen, I did not like it at all. But some people really love it, so.
Do you like it better now?
I like it better now. I've watched a lot of demonstrations, like watching, there's so many letterers on YouTube or Instagram. If you just hashtag like lettering video, there's so many videos, and it just helps to watch how people are holding their pens and just adjusting. I think a big thing with the brush pen, since it's not as flexible, you really do have to be like dramatic with the angle you're holding the brush pen to the page. With the watercolor brush, you don't have to be as dramatic with the angle, because the brush itself will respond to the pressure a lot better. All right, here's this loopy T, once again, you can cut out those loops if you don't like them. I start with this upstroke at the top of my loop and then go down. And then upstroke again, going down, and end with a little loop. All right, lowercase q. Lowercase q, a lot less loops in this one. We just kind of go around with that oval. And then your downstroke, and then you loop back up. Do that one more time. Just that oval is tricky to do. Going around. Okay. And then the last one on this page is our R. We're gonna go to a small upstroke, making almost a little oval at the top there. As you go across, you're kind of treating that as an upstroke. Any horizontal strokes, you just put lighter pressure on as well, and then go downwards. If you don't like the little extra loop in your R, you can just simply go up, down, and do another downstroke like that. As you might have noticed, I like to add all the loops I can. All right. Got just a few more pages, I think. Getting there, you guys. You're doing it. Okay. All right, so the lowercase s, we start with a simple upstroke, curve this downstroke around, and then up. All right. I thought that was my phone, and I was like, nope, it's right here. It's okay. It's not. This isn't real school, so you're not going to get in trouble. Okay, upstroke, thicker downstroke, come around. All right. Lowercase t, this includes the kind of connecting letter there, or the connecting upstroke. But your lowercase t really just starts, if you're doing it by itself, it's starting with a downstroke, and then you're going to do a horizontal crossover. But when you're writing it in the middle of a word, it will have a connecting upstroke there. All right, and then the U. I started mine with just a little kind of overturn there into a downstroke, upstroke, and then downstroke with a little tail at the end. You can also try it without that little overturn and just go straight into a downstroke. All of these letters are script, or they're acting as if you would be using it when you're writing in cursive, but you can also do non-script brush lettering. So you can have the letters stand alone. If you're into more like a less like loopy feminine style, there's so many like fonts and styles of writing where they're not connected in script too. Okay, our V, once again, those extra loops, feel free to skip those if you don't like them. But this connecting upstroke would transition to your downstroke. Kind of going up the hill, and then this little loop is here just to make a nice way to connect to your next letter. But you could leave it out if you're not connecting it to something. You can simply go like that. Okay, and then our W, we're starting with that little ascending loop, transitioning to a downstroke, going up the hill, down the hill, and then back up. And then our X is simple. We're just doing a downstroke on one arm of the X and then an upstroke on the other one. And then last page with the brush pen, and then if you don't ever want to touch it again in your life, you don't have to. Okay, so the lowercase y starts very similar to our U, where we're doing this overturn into a downstroke and going uphill and going into another downstroke. You like doing that one? Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Y has a nice flow to it. You can always try going backwards, like this little trick I was talking about. And then the lowercase z, it's just a weird letter in my opinion, but the technical cursive lowercase z looks like this. You could also just do a smaller version like this if you are not drawing in cursive or writing in cursive. So we're going to do an upstroke to a downstroke, and go back up again, down, and then you have one final loop there. Alright, we did it. Alright, I'm going to stop this live video right now and then give some instructions on the watercolors. And